I knew something was wrong the moment the hostess asked, "Will the rest of your party be joining you soon?" I smiled like it didn't sting, nodded like I still believed they might show up. But deep down I knew. I'd arrived early, 42 years old, and still hoping my family would surprise me with something, anything. I'd picked the restaurant myself. Intimate, candlelit. The kind of place where birthdays feel personal. I even wore my navy dress with sleeves long enough to hide the weight I'd lost this year, not from dieting but from stress I didn't talk about. I ordered a glass of wine. And then, just as the sun dropped behind the Minneapolis skyline and shadows stretched across the street outside, my phone buzzed. We had other plans. Happy birthday. That was it. 13 words.
No epalerí. No explanation.
Just my mother's tone, casual, clipped, like I was a dentist appointment she'd forgotten to cancel. I didn't cry. I didn't gasp or make a scene. I just set my phone face down and adjusted the silverware in front of me, one fork at a time, as if it mattered now. And still, one question burned under my skin. How do you stay at a table that was never set for you to begin with? The waiter came by with polite concern, asking if I wanted to order or wait. I said I'd wait. I didn't know why. Maybe I was still clinging to the hope that this was all a misunderstanding, that my sister Chloe was just. My seat faced the door. I watched every person walk in, none of them for me. A couple kissed across a booth. A father laughed with his daughter over fries. I sat there alone, pretending to scroll my phone, pretending to belong. I had given so much to this family, money, time, silence. And this was the return, a reservation for 6 and a table for 1. Then the hostess returned. "Someone dropped this off for you earlier," she said, placing a gold-wrapped box on the table. A gift, apparently, from the family. But as I peeled back the wrapping, my stomach turned. Inside was a scarf. Not just any scarf, the same one I gave my mother last Christmas. Pale blue silk, with a snag on the edge where her ring caught it. And beneath it, a reused card. My handwriting, half erased. So now I had a table, a gift, a wine glass catching candlelight. What I didn't have was a place in their story anymore. I held the scarf in my lap, like it might bite me. The tissue paper had a faint lavender scent, my scent. I remembered wrapping that exact box last December in my apartment, late at night, hoping it would be enough to make her smile. Pale blue silk, hand-stitched edges. A little snag where her wedding ring had once caught on the hem during Christmas Eve dinner. I'd spent nearly an hour browsing for it because I thought it looked like something she'd wear to church or her book club. Something that said, "I see you."
Ikare.
But tonight, it was clear she never really saw me at all. I reached under the scarf and pulled out the card. The front read, "Happy birthday," but the inside made my throat tighten. Faintly beneath the new ink, I could still see the old message in my own handwriting. "Love you always, Mom." They hadn't even used a fresh card. They had just crossed out what I'd written a year ago and written over it like that could rewrite the memory, like that could erase who gave the gift in the first place. I set the scarf gently back into the box and closed the lid. My hands were steady, but my breath wasn't. At the table next to mine, a young couple laughed over some inside joke. The woman wore a party hat. Their waiter brought out a slice of cake with a sparkler in it. I turned my gaze to the window, watching the headlights blur past on Washington Avenue, pretending not to notice how small I felt. What do you do with a moment like that? When the people you've built your life around start treating your love like an afterthought, like a transaction. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink hard. I just reached into my purse and pulled out a sticky note I'd meant to use for groceries. I wrote down 5 words, simple, direct, and slid it under my untouched bread plate. Then I left the box, the wine, the reservation, all of it behind. As I walked back into the cold night air, I could still feel the weight of that scarf in my hands, like a ghost of a daughter I used to be, slowly fading from their memory. But something inside me whispered, "You're not the one who should feel forgotten." I should have turned my phone off. I should have left it face down on the nightstand like I planned. But something about silence makes you crave noise, any noise, even the kind that wounds. It was past midnight when the screen lit up with a soft buzz. Instagram notification. Chloe Jennings just posted a new photo. I knew better. I clicked anyway. The image loaded slowly, as if my phone knew it was carrying a gut punch. There they were, my mother, Chloe, Trent, and even Uncle Dave, who hadn't shown up for anything meaningful in years, all huddled together outside a sleek rooftop restaurant in Uptown. Glasses raised, champagne bubbling, velvet dresses, bright teeth, gold balloons in the background. Trent stood in the center, grinning like he just won the lottery. And on his wrist, clear as day, was the watch. The same one he had texted me about 2 months ago, asking if it was too flashy. I told him it was beautiful, but too expensive. He told me he couldn't afford it anyway. So, why was it on his wrist now? I pulled up my banking app, fingers colder than the wine I left untouched by the sink. Transaction history. Last Tuesday. $1,500 transfer to Trent Jennings. The note he sent. Emergency rent. I'm behind. They're threatening to evict me. I'd wired it before he could even finish typing. Because that's what I do. Or did. I stared at the post again. The caption read, "Celebrating the dreamer." He finally made it happen. No mention of me. Not even a hint. They had toasted his success with the money I gave in fear and love. They had worn my scarf, clinked their glasses under city lights, and fed each other cake while I sat alone, rewriting my role in this family with every breath. And in that moment, something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with recognition. I wasn't invited. I was funding the celebration of my own exclusion. I locked my phone and stared at the ceiling like it might give me answers. Instead, I got stillness. Cold, blunt stillness. It was never that they forgot me. It was that they made room for joy, just not mine. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. Instead, I opened my laptop and stared at the blinking cursor on a blank spreadsheet. The glow from the screen, the only light in my apartment. I titled it Unpaid Debts. Not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. I needed to see it, to name it, because what they'd taken wasn't just money. It was pieces of me. I started typing. Car repair for Trent, $980. Chloe's emergency dental bill, $640. Groceries for mom after her surgery, $326.45. Christmas flights for everyone else, $1,200. Line after line, it came back to me, not as accusations but as receipts. I had always told myself it was just what family does. We show up. We give without keeping score. But suddenly, the scoreboard was all I could see. I created a second tab, emotional overdrafts. Because there were things no bank could track. Missed vacation to Lake Superior, canceled so Chloe could use my car. Left work early to babysit Trent's son, twice. Thanksgiving dinner, cooked and cleaned alone, then excluded from the photo. Each row felt like a bruise I didn't know I'd been carrying. I scrolled down, the list growing longer, the memories stacking up like overdue bills. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was awake. Wide awake. With the kind of clarity that only shows up when the illusion finally breaks. It wasn't that they didn't know what I gave. It was that they expected it. Counted on it. Took it. And somehow, I had been complicit in my own erasure. I had said yes too many times. I had filled gaps, paid balances, bought silence. And the one time I asked for something as simple as dinner on my birthday, they vanished like smoke. I paused for a moment and opened the photo of Trent's birthday toast. I dragged it into the spreadsheet and placed it beside the $1,500 transfer entry. A quiet symbol of the cost of loyalty in a family that cashed in on mine. Then I hit save. Not for revenge. Not for pity. But because I was finally ready to stop being the invisible donor to someone else's spotlight. And if they were going to forget what I gave, I'd make sure I remembered. I wasn't looking for another blow. I was just trying to breathe. The next morning, I logged into the mortgage portal, one of the few ties still connecting me to the house my father left us. It wasn't my home anymore, not really. But my name had been on that deed for 3 years. Ever since we agreed, after the funeral, to handle things as a family. The house was supposed to be shared. Neutral ground. A symbol of trust. I had paid half the property taxes last year, covered emergency plumbing when the basement flooded, and even floated Chloe 3 months of payments when she lost her job. But now, as I scanned the dashboard, something looked wrong. A new document was attached to the account, a revised ownership agreement. I clicked, downloaded, scrolled, and there it was. My name?
Gone.
The deed had been refiled 4 weeks ago. Co-owners now listed as Trent Jennings and Chloe Jennings.
No, Ailen. No explanaste.
Just silence. I stared at the screen like it might rewrite itself. I checked for a signature. Maybe I'd forgotten something? Signed something I hadn't meant to? But the digital page was crisp, tidy, too clean. A single line claimed, "All heirs in agreement, verified." I grabbed my phone and called the county clerk's office, my fingers trembling slightly, not with rage, but with disbelief. A woman with a steady voice and a Midwestern drawl answered after 3 transfers. "Yes, ma'am, I see the file. It was submitted in person," she said. I held my breath. Was there a signature for me on record? A pause. Keys clicking. "Yep," says Ailen M. Jennings. "Looks neat. But there's no attached ID confirmation." I swallowed hard. "That's not mine." She paused again, then said gently, "If you believe this is fraudulent, I'd recommend contacting a property attorney." Fraud. The word hit me like cold water to the face. Not only had they excluded me from a birthday, not only had they used my money to toast my absence, they had crossed a legal line. A paper trail in my name. I ended the call. Sat still. Listened to the silence in my apartment like it might offer answers. They didn't just forget me. They erased me, one signature at a time. 3 days passed before Chloe showed up at my door like nothing had happened. No call, no warning, just a soft knock around dinner time. And a familiar pastel gift bag dangling from her wrist, like some peace offering picked up in a pharmacy aisle. I didn't invite her in, but she stepped over the threshold anyway. Of course she did. That's always been Chloe. Walking into spaces she didn't ask permission for, then acting like she's the one doing you a favor. She perched on the edge of my couch like it might stain her jeans, smoothing her palms over her knees. "Look," she said, her tone carefully rehearsed. "I know how things looked, but maybe you just needed space." I said nothing. I let the silence stretch long enough to make her squirm. She cleared her throat. "You're not always the easiest person to be around, Ailen. You can be." I raised an eyebrow. "What? Difficult?" She exhaled sharply. "Sensitive." There it was. The family classic. The phrase they always reach for when they don't want to own the damage they've caused. I wasn't mad. I was done. I walked to the drawer near the sink and pulled out the folder I had prepared days ago, not out of hope, but readiness. I handed her a single page. She blinked as her eyes scanned the list. Financial contributions, dollar amounts, dates, purposes. Rent, groceries, bailouts, medical copays. All of it. "This," I said, calm as ever, "is who you've been talking about behind my back." Her fingers tightened around the page. "This isn't fair." I cut her off. Fair was me showing up. Fair was me giving when no one asked how I was doing. Fair was trusting you with my name on a deed and watching it disappear. She opened her mouth but found no words. I didn't wait. I reached for the gift bag, walked it to the kitchen, and gently dropped it into the trash can. No anger, just finality. Then I turned back to her. "Next time someone asks where I am, tell them the truth. I stopped paying to be ignored." Chloe stood slowly, adjusting her coat like armor. "You'll regret this when you're alone." I walked her to the door and locked it behind her. "I've already been alone," I whispered to the wood. "This time, it's my choice." I didn't rage clean or blast music or call anyone to vent. I just sat there, on the floor of my kitchen, back against the cabinet, watching the gift bag in the trash like it might climb back out and try again. But it didn't. And neither did I. Instead, I got up, wiped my hands, and did the one thing my family never expected me to do. I started cutting ties, not loudly, not theatrically, but surgically. First, I canceled the grocery delivery subscription that still sent crates of overpriced snacks to my mother's house each week, courtesy of my autopay. I disabled the streaming services tied to my account, the ones Trent and Chloe were using to watch their shows while I paid for their silence. Then I opened the family group chat. It had been renamed Family First Broken Heart Waving Hand. A new version of the same old lie. They hadn't removed me. That would have required confrontation. No, they just renamed the thread and carried on without me, as if I'd quietly left the stage in the middle of my own scene. I scrolled up. A message from Chloe. Don't invite her this year. She ruins the mood. For my mother. Let's try to keep things civil. No drama this time. I hit mute. Then I hit delete. Not in anger. Not even in sadness.
In peace.
There was a strange relief in the quiet that followed, like unplugging a machine that had been humming just behind your ears for years. I didn't feel small anymore. I felt spared. I reached into the drawer where I kept old receipts and found the manila folder I'd labeled, just in case. Inside were printed emails, bank transfers, screen grabs. I tucked in the photo of Trent's party. Then I added the fake deed signature and Chloe's text. Proof. Not for them. For me. So that one day, if I ever doubted what I saw, I could open that folder and remember exactly how it all fell apart. And that night, for the first time in months, I slept without checking my phone.
No alarms, no bases.
No apologies, I didn't believe. Just stillness. Because the people who taught me to be quiet never expected I'd use that silence to leave them behind. And now, one by one, I was closing every open tab they had left in my life. The next afternoon, I bought a small chocolate cake and drove across town, not to make amends, but to make space. I pulled into the parking lot of Willow Pines Assisted Living just as the sun dipped low behind the cottonwoods, casting long amber shadows across the walkway. It smelled like autumn and cinnamon and something older than both. Inside, the receptionist buzzed me through without asking questions. I think she recognized the look on my face, the kind you wear when you're carrying something you're finally ready to put down. I found Ms. Downey near the window in the common room. Flipping through a large print magazine she probably didn't care about. Her silver hair was pulled back with a tortoiseshell clip, her glasses sliding halfway down her nose. When she looked up, her eyes crinkled with warmth. Well, she said, you brought your own cake to your own party. Bold. I figured I'd stop waiting for someone else to do it, I said, setting the cake down. We didn't sing. We didn't make a wish. We just shared 2 crooked slices and sipped stale coffee that had been sitting on the warmer too long. And yet, it tasted better than any birthday toast I could remember. She leaned back, fork still in hand. I never had a daughter, she said softly. But if I had, I would have wanted one like you. The kind who drags her own chair to the table instead of waiting for an invitation.
Ich sehe her, Zeit.
No one had ever said that to me before. If I'd had a mother like you, I said, maybe I wouldn't have spent so long learning how to exist in rooms where no one saved me a seat.
She didn't blink.
She just nodded, like she'd been waiting years to hear someone say it. The sun spilled golden light across the room. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt seen. When I left, I wrapped a slice of cake in a napkin and tucked it into the fridge in the staff lounge. Just a little thank you. Not for anyone in particular, just for kindness in quiet places. I drove home with the window down, the cool air on my skin reminding me that not all things that chill are meant to hurt. And in that moment I realized, family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes, it's who shows up when you've stopped pretending you're fine. When I got home that night, the apartment felt quieter, but not hollow. Just clean. Like something had been aired out. I poured a glass of water I didn't finish and sat at my desk, the screen still glowing with a folder I'd left open that morning. I moved the cursor to a PDF titled, Revised Property Deed, Jennings Residence. With one click, it opened again. I scanned the signature line slowly one more time, just to be sure. It wasn't mine. And now, Thanks to the attorney Ms. Downey had quietly recommended months ago, just in case I had what I needed. The emails had been sent, the documents reviewed,
And tonight.
the final response came in. Subject: title removal confirmed. I read the line twice, then once more for the weight of it. Your name no longer appears on the joint property. Effective immediately. No grand apology. No family drama this time. Just legal clarity, the kind I'd been denied for years. I leaned back, the chair creaking beneath me like it, too, was exhaling. It wasn't triumph I felt. It wasn't even relief. It was extraction.
Clean. Sharp.
Quiet. I clicked into the folder I'd named, just in case, and began dragging files into a new one. Closure. Final. The forged deed. Screenshots of text messages. Bank receipts. Trent's birthday photo. Wristwatch gleaming like a trophy paid for with my trust. I wasn't going to forget what happened. But I also wasn't going to carry it like unpaid debt anymore. Then I logged into 3 accounts, grocery service, streaming, shared cloud, and shut them down. One by one.
No anunciament. No confrontation.
That night, I sent one final message into the group chat before deleting the thread. Handled what I needed. No further response required. Then I turned off my phone and dropped it. Face down onto the nightstand. They had taken space from me for years. This time I was taking it back. No more being the placeholder. No more being the background. No more being the one who silently filled the gaps. This was the last page of their chapter in my story. And I was the one writing the ending. The next morning arrived like it was holding its breath, quiet, gray, and still. No alarms, no notifications, no one needing anything from me. Just the soft sound of wind pushing against the balcony door I'd forgotten to close. I got up barefoot, wrapped in the throw blanket from the couch, and brewed coffee for the first time, without checking my phone. This time, I wasn't preparing for battle. I wasn't rehearsing a reply or bracing for guilt in the form of voicemail. I was just
being.
The mug was warm in my hands as I stepped out onto the patio, watching the sky shift slowly from silver to blue. There was no performance.
No noise.
Just me.
Whole.
Undistracted. Unavailable to those who used to feast on my silence, like it was theirs to consume. When I finally picked up my phone, it buzzed once, then again. Missed calls from Trent. A voicemail from my mother. I didn't flinch. I didn't press play. Instead, I opened the folder I'd titled What I Deserve. Inside it, the confirmation of the title removal, the screenshots, the receipts, the photo of me and Ms. Downey laughing over crooked birthday cake. I added one last thing, a note card I found in the kitchen drawer, blank except for 5 words I scribbled slowly, deliberately. You were always enough, Ailen. And maybe for the first time, I believed it. I opened a travel website and searched for flights. Not to run away, but to begin. Somewhere simple.
Quiet.
With mountains. Montana, maybe. Or Wyoming. Just a cabin and some sky. A place where I didn't have to shrink to fit.
No dramatic goodbyes. No social media exits.
No final plea for understanding. Just a ticket, a sunrise, and the freedom to become someone new without dragging their silence with me. Because sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. I used to think I needed their applause to matter. Now I understand. My story was never theirs to write. And as I stood there watching the sun spill across my floor like an invitation, I whispered to the air, "This isn't where I stay anymore." Then I smiled. Not for anyone else. Just for me. Because this peace, this breath, this moment, was mine.